Hans family, and welcome to HANZOWEEN. HANZOWEEN is 31 tutorials in the month of October, so that means a new video every single day. Today is going to be a vintage, creepy clown collab with a bunch of artists. I'll have all of their little links and pictures and stuff all around here. Bunch of cool artists, and they're all super badass, so please make sure to check them out. All product details will be listed down below, including all the social media links to the other artists and everything you'll need to know for this video. Let's get to it. What fit better than to use Kryolan's Clown White cream paint all over my face as a base? I am stippling this on very lightly. I want this to look very messy. Using this brown cream paint from Mehron's Mask palette, I am going to use this fan brush and start stippling some texture all over my face. I want to look dirty and grimy and kind of gross. I want this makeup to look worn in, so I'm basically accentuating every single wrinkle I have, and I am putting my face into weird kind of shapes just so that I can find more of these wrinkles that I do have. Keep adding on as much texture as possible, because this makeup basically, we put this on a long time ago, and we never wash our face because we're nasty bitches like that. That's what we want to look like, for once. Let me just snap a quick picture to send to Dehs, my progress shot. Gotta get a sexy face real quick. I've had a long and beautiful life as a clown, so I want to accentuate a lot of the little lines around my eyes too. I was constantly laughing. I was making the kids laugh too, so I would of course have little crow's feet. So you can see all of the weird faces I have to make to really bring those out, and I am just putting the cream paint right inside of those wrinkles, so that when you unscrunch your face, those little lines are still there. I didn't like the mouth, so I wanted to recover that up, and so I'm just making it a little larger and a little bit longer, just so that the teeth that I did want to paint had plenty of room. You don't want to make your top mouth too small so that you don't have enough room for your teeth, so make sure to kind of play around with shapes before you decide to commit to teeth. Show a little more shading in your kind of where your furrowed brow would be, just so that it looks a little more intense, and then we are going to start drawing on our red nose using Mehron's Paradise Paint in Port. Since we are going with a vintage clown, I wanted most of my colors to be very muted. For the eyebrows, I mixed just a little bit of black and brown paint together, and I'm putting it on in the shape that I want, and then I am just patting the color. Doing this will basically put the color down and then blend it a little bit into the cream makeup. By patting it, you're not blending it into a nice, seamless, beautiful beauty blend. You want it to look grungy and nasty. That's why this look is actually super easy to do. And I wanted to make kind of an interesting but rugged and worn shape on my eye as well, accentuating the inner corners and the outer corners a little bit. And bring a little bit more of that black paint into your lines around your eyes as well, because the black makeup would get into the lines of your face if you had really intense wrinkles. Oh, Mocha, we meet again. This is Mocha eyeshadow from Makeup Geek. I am just darkening all of our little wrinkles, especially the ones under our little eyebrows. We want these really intense furrowed brows. Though our clown has had a life of laughter, you know, she's real angsty and misunderstood, so you gotta kind of mix the two. She's like a vintage emo kid. You don't know what emotion's gonna come out that day. Continue to keep darkening up the wrinkles, especially our little laugh lines by our nose. Since I don't naturally have these kind of wrinkles around my mouth like this, because my mouth isn't ginormous, we have to create them, and so we have to make them look a little realistic. So add shadow and kind of pull the shadow underneath to make it look like the skin is pulling taut. This is Corrupt by Makeup Geek, a black eyeshadow, doing the exact same thing we've done, just darkening up some of our shadows. Don't darken up every single one, just darken up the ones that would be the deepest. Essentially, our laugh lines and the wrinkles around our mouth would be very deep because there would be a lot of skin really pulling those. The darker the shadow, the deeper the wrinkle. Now that we have our base of worn makeup that we've never washed off, we want to draw on our makeup that we actually do draw on every day. So I'm just drawing two quick little lines coming down from my eyes. For the teeth, I didn't want to start out with a base of super stark white. I mixed a little bit of yellow, brown, and white paint together to get this nasty aged color. I wanted the teeth to have kind of a humanized feel to them, but still looking creepy. So I am basically drawing them in little squares and doing them very messy and not doing them straight. I'm not really doing them too realistic to how teeth would actually look. I'm doing some missing, I'm doing some really gapped from each other. Clean up and just fill in the inside of the mouth with Port paint from Mehron Makeup, and you can use this to help kind of shape your teeth and add a few more gaps if you do desire. You can see I wanted lots of holes in these teeth. I wanted them to look really fucked up. Using Chickadee's eyeshadow and laughing at something Alex was saying on FaceTime, I am going to start adding a little bit of shadow to these teeth so that they look a little more aged. And because the skin hanging over our teeth would cast a little bit of a shadow onto them. If you look at your teeth even now in the mirror straight on and you smile, the shadow from your lips will cast a little bit onto your teeth. And I am adding in a little bit of Mocha and Corrupt mixed together just to add a little more shading, focusing more towards the top and bottom near the skin. Make sure to separate the teeth from each other as well using those shadows. Since we have a big creepy smile, we do want to add a few more fine lines around the edge of the skin of the mouth as well, just to show that it is lifting up a little bit. The skin near the mouth would have a little bit of a higher point. So, like I say in every video, it would be catching light because it's at a high point of your face. Making my nose look a little more intense, and then using that same Corrupt black eyeshadow just to shade the bottom of the nose, and then using a little bit of the cream paint from Kryolan to highlight it. Use that same dark black shadow to darken the inside of your mouth, the kind of middle portion, and then use a little bit of white body paint for a few pops of highlight on the teeth. Focus the highlight more towards the inner sides of the teeth. The eyes definitely weren't dark enough, and I just wanted this to be a little more intense with texture, so I'm adding a little more black in a few select spots around my face. This whole entire look is about looking aged and looking grungy and kind of old and worn down. So I'm putting white body paint all over my chest, but you can see I'm not doing it super opaque. I'm kind of leaving some patchy spots, and that's okay. You want to sketch out your ruffles using a brown matte eyeshadow. If you've never drawn ruffles before, I suggest looking at a reference picture and just drawing from there. I've drawn ruffles enough that I didn't, so I just kind of went with what I knew, and this is what I created. The more you practice clothes, guys, the more it's going to just be super easy to not even look at a reference picture and just figure out where the highlights and shadows would be on your own. For shading, I'm mixing Corrupt and Mocha. I didn't want to go with super black because the shadow cast from the ruffles wouldn't be just immediately black. It would kind of transition a little bit. So I'm shadowing underneath every single ruffle because basically the ruffle on top of the one under it would cast a shadow onto the one under it, if that makes sense. If a ruffle is curving upwards, that means that that upwards portion would be catching the light, so you do not want to add shadow on that. You want to add shadow when the ruffles go downwards and curve downwards. Look at any picture of even a flag, and you can see how when it curves downwards, that means that the shadow is being cast into that little downwards motion, and the point that's going up has the light hitting it, so you want to highlight that. Try to blend very soft and add pigment as you go, because you can always add to it, but it's a lot harder to try to take away. The more intense of an upper curve in one of the ruffles, the more intense a shadow, because that means that that ruffle is going super high, so it's really catching that light, so it would really cast a large shadow onto the ruffle underneath. The best advice I can give you is just to really study and kind of look at the highlights and shadows between different kinds of ruffles. Look at a ribbon, look at a flag, look at anything you need to just really understand why highlights and shadows work the way they do. I feel like that's why nowadays it's so easy for me to just draw on clothes without looking at a reference, because I understand why shadows and highlights work that way. Just like we added shadows, we gotta add highlight too. So I'm pretty much doing what we just talked about. I'm using white Kryolan paint, and I am just kind of adding a little bit of shock of white to those curves of the ruffles that move upwards. You want to focus these highlights towards the edge of the ruffles too, because as the farther they go back, the kind of darker the shadow would be. This is a forest green that I made just out of Amazon green and black paints from Mehron, and I'm just drawing on some little dots everywhere with a little angled brush. Super easy to do with an angled brush, and I wanted them lots of different sizes. I'm going to intensify the little lines that I drew earlier to kind of show where my fabric has been sewn together, and I am going to use Mocha and Corrupt just the same, and I am going to show that the fabric has tension. It's pulling at these portions of my body. If you were wearing this super tight and you had a little seam around your shoulder, little tiny wrinkles would come up because it would be pulling the fabric toward that seam. Whew, stumbled on my words there a little bit. Sorry, talking an earful. Just trying to give you guys as much information as possible. My neck, I completely forgot about, so I'm adding a bit more texture. Then I'm using Mocha, again, from Makeup Geek, just to bring the shadow in to around the neck. I added a little tiny accent mark. This is just red paint, and I'm just smearing it a little bit. Nothing too fancy. And this, you guys, is the final product. I hope you like it. I was talking to Alex, and it looks like I am Twisty's wife. Maybe like a woman form of Twisty. So maybe if you, for Halloween, have your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. Someone wants to be Twisty, someone wants to be Twisty's wife, whatever, do it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to check out the artist, and I will see you guys tomorrow.